Hey everybody, Amy Yardley here with Navigate Your Healing, and I am here for another episode of Autism Awareness and telling the real story about autism that maybe you don't hear and see highlighted very often in terms of Autism Awareness Month and all of that good kind of stuff. And of course, my purpose behind this is to bring more awareness around people who are moderately to significantly affected, the families, their life experiences as they are supporting those individuals, and then of course the community at large saying not only this is what life is like, but these are the kinds of things that you can do to help support us, because that's what's really most important. And so today I am talking about comorbid conditions, those physical conditions and sometimes also mental health diagnoses that go along also with autism. And I think a lot of people who are not in this community find it rather startling or surprising to learn that most individuals on the spectrum have also some sort of comorbid condition. And the reason, we don't know necessarily the reasons behind that because everybody's reason is individual, but we do know that when we work in supporting and treating comorbid conditions, that it improves the expression of life for that person, it reduces their pain, it reduces their inflammation, and then what that also does in effect is it makes the other things about the autism a little bit more manageable. So we might see better communication, we see less maladaptive behaviors, we see less sorts of stimming and all of that sort of stuff. And so comorbid conditions are a really, really important part of supporting someone with autism and finding out, is this a condition that you have? Is this something that we need to treat? And so I'm just going to run through a list of some of the more common comorbid conditions that you'll find oftentimes in people who are on the autism spectrum. And the first one, I'm just going to roll through it. So, and it's a long list. And some people might have one, some people might have none, some people might have all of these. And that's what makes it so complex in terms of supporting people and in terms of trying to understand what's going on and trying to just bridge a pathway for them for moving forward in their lives. So there's neuroinflammation, immune system dysregulation, allergies, food sensitivities, autoimmunity, GI dysfunction, mitochondrial dysfunction, metabolic abnormalities, excessive oxidative stress, autonomic nervous system dysfunction, seizures, mast cell activation, anxiety, PANS, PANDAS, OCD, ODD, ADHD, RAD, emotional lability, sensory processing disorder, pain, apraxia, dyslexia, dyscalculia, all of those other kinds of diagnoses that oftentimes you'll see as a whole in this individual. So, of course, when this happens, and we know that, for instance, GI dysfunction and GI issues are huge for a large component of kids who are on the spectrum. And that's where utilizing diets and utilizing healing diets and utilizing probiotics and other types of things to help regulate the digestive system can go a really long way in terms of improving the expression of life, because it decreases pain, it moves food through the digestive system as it should, it increases nutrient absorption, and it just, we all feel better when we poop regularly. And so our kids are no different from that. And so what you might find, though, is you get this diagnosis of autism, and you get it from usually a neurobehavioral specialist who is not a specialist in GI dysfunction or GI disorders. And so I remember when we got our diagnosis and we asked about diet. And he was basically like, well, you can try it, but I wouldn't expect anything. Okay. Well, guess what? We tried it, and within a week, my son was demonstrably feeling better, which meant he had better communication, he had better attention, better engagement, less brain fog, and he had less behaviors. So that's like a win in my book. And so it's hard, though, because you present your child to these physicians, the people who are the autism specialists, and you say, can we look at this? I think this might be an issue. And many, many, many times, families are, they face a brick wall with trying to take these issues to their physicians, because the physicians will first of all say, oh no, that's just autism, that's nothing else. And they don't see the body as a whole, and they don't understand how all of that can come together and play a role in this manifested behavior that we see. So it's really important to understand too, I mean, in our modern medical system, what happens is if I've got a GI problem, I go see a GI specialist. If I have seizures, I go see the neurologist. If I have PANS or PANDAS, then I have to go see another completely separate specialist for that. And so our lives are built around all of the specialists that are in our lives, and managing appointments for not only just this stuff with the comorbid conditions, but then the regular therapies that go along with that, in terms of the ABA therapy and the speech therapy and the occupational therapy and the physical therapy, and and all of these types of things. And improving someone's health, bringing their nervous system back into balance, is really only going to leverage the potential out of all of your other therapies. And so lots of times there's like this infighting and this bickering that goes on, where people go, oh, you're just trying to change your kid, and I just did this kind of therapy, and I'm on and on and on and on. And it's just a ridiculous argument, because it's like, we all want our kids to be as healthy as possible. We all want our kids to have the highest opportunity possible for success in their lives. And just because you have autism doesn't mean that we don't do that, right? We explore these things. We know, something's going on, and even if a doctor tells me that it doesn't have anything to do with it, I'm going to pursue it further, and I'm going to see what I can do. And more often than not, what happens is people do improve little by little by little. So what we want you to know, if you're new to this and you want to support somebody, a family who is dealing with all of these things, please know that it's difficult for us to get doctors to investigate this and for treatment. Mainstream doctors, like I said, they're very specialized, so they're kind of siloed, and they don't like to go outside of those boundaries. So we have to try and find physicians and practitioners who will do that. And typically, they do not take insurance. They do not, so we have to pay out of pocket. And there really aren't that many around all over the place. So also families have to travel in order to see those practitioners in person. So please know that our lives are like this scaffolding of appointments and trying to figure out, well, who am I going to see and what am I going to do here and all of this. And it's always, all of these pieces are always going on in our minds about, how do I get this done and how am I going to do this, and ooh, I want to see this doctor, but and just kind of making all of that work. Please know that all of the things that we try are to alleviate pain, discomfort, and to improve an expression of life. Just like we would do for ourselves, just like we would do for our other kids. That's what all humans deserve. Humans deserve to have the highest expression of life possible. And we do that by improving health. No, you cannot give my kid just one piece of candy, because that one piece of candy could off-rail a whole series of events that we've put into play in order to improve the digestive system. So no, you cannot just give him a piece of candy. No, he cannot just have pizza tonight, because we have this entire plan built on this. And yes, it could really be incredibly disruptive. And even though you don't necessarily understand that, you have to understand that sometimes when our kids have such sensitivities that when they do receive that kind of food, it may seem like they're doing okay, but when they get home, it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, the behaviors are just off the charts. So it's not all about just giving the kid, something to eat. It affects everybody in the entire family. No, insurance doesn't cover any of this. We typically don't. Yes, it's worth it, even though it may seem like kids aren't demonstrably a whole lot better. Because it's like everything that happens in our lives happens incrementally and oftentimes at glacial speeds. And so we know that if something happens, like for instance, we do something to improve methylation, we do something to improve the metabolic health, and we can see a slight difference in that, and we can see a slight improvement in that, even though there's this huge monumental effort to get to that point, we're going to keep doing it, because every single improvement is important. Every single improvement is more information for us about what's going on with our kids, because Again, if they're particularly moderately affected or significantly affected, they don't have the language, they don't have the traditional communication skills to be able to say, hey, my guts hurt. Hey, my head feels funny. Hey, when I eat this, I feel horrible. Those are really complex communication skills, because you have to have that awareness of self, and I have to have that awareness of what's going on, and then I have to be able to communicate that back to you. So we go a lot by behaviors and what's going on. So please know that comorbid conditions are very real. They're not rare, and that you can improve expression of life by great measures if you work on seeing what those comorbid conditions are and then work on improving them. And ultimately what those do is they help bring the nervous system back into balance, and of course a balanced nervous system is one that's open to learning and growth versus being in fight or flight all the time. So hope that was helpful. And ironically, or maybe not ironically, today I actually have a phone consult with one of my son's specialists in regards to one of his comorbid conditions. So I'm going to sign off for now, but I will, when I get back home, drop a link in the comments for a paper that talks about comorbid conditions and basically substantiates everything I just said today. So we'll talk to you later. Bye.